Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's AJ Writes Crypto. Welcome to the channel. First of all, I want to say that this Andrew Tate interview you're about to watch is not only a big moment for this channel, but it's a big moment for crypto because Andrew Tate has not done an exclusive crypto Q&A since his interview with Thread Guy well over a year ago. So to hear his updated stance on Bitcoin, his altcoin picks, what he thinks about the dollar, to hear all this stuff now as we get closer to the end of 2025, it's pretty perfect timing for an updated Andrew Tate crypto interview. So big shout out to Andrew. Thank you to him for taking the time to do this interview. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Just so you know, a couple quick things. I just started a second crypto YouTube channel yesterday called Trade Crypto Today. This normal channel here, AJ Writes Crypto, we've been around for a year and a half. We kind of do it all. Trade Crypto Today is more of a daily type video, 3 to 4 minute video that's just one trade setup, one chart, one idea to get your trading ideas flowing every day. It's really hard to pick, what to trade every day. So just to help people zone in on that one thing, that's the purpose of Trade Crypto Today. And if you want to subscribe to my second channel, make sure you click the link down below in the description. Also, I'd like to thank Market Cypher for sponsoring this video. Market Cypher is a leading trading indicator. If you're not winning trades or if you need help winning trades, check out Market Cypher. It is a deal breaker between winning or losing trades. I've been using it for over 5 years. And if you want to sign up for Market Cypher, use the code TATE, T-A-T-E, for 30% off on your subscription. Let's get into the interview. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's AJ Writes Crypto, and I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Top G, Andrew Tate. Man, how you doing today?
That's a great intro. Thank you very much, sir. I'm doing good. You?
I've never been better. This year has been probably one of my best years ever. Actually has been my best year ever. And, this perfectly rolls into my first question. Every crypto bull run has been a year and a half after the previous halving. Well, the previous halving was, a year and a half ago. And, Jerome Powell is probably going to decrease slash interest rates for the first time in 9 months today. The stars are kind of aligning. I want to know, currently today, what is your stance on crypto and are you actively buying?
Yeah, so I think timing the market is an easy way to go insane, right? I don't think anyone can perfectly time the market ever. I see people studying the charts and all these things, and I know some people know a lot more than others, but to time it perfectly just seems stressful. So I'm very simple. I just buy and forget. I've been buying and forgetting Bitcoin since $6,000, and the day it crossed 100,000 was remarkable. And it's amazing how hedonistic adaptation works, because when it crossed 100,000, it was crazy. And now when it drops to 110, I'm like, this trash. It's crazy how quickly we get used to it. So I buy and forget. I truly believe that crypto is the future. I think it's one of the only ways that anybody can generate or build wealth, especially the younger generation now. The game has completely changed. Everything is rigged. Everything is set up and everything is on the verge of collapse. So if you don't believe in crypto, I often ask people, if you don't believe in crypto, what do you believe in? Because all the things from the past have been proven to not be true. And the generation above us, our parents, in relation to wages, they got access to very cheap property. They could get a house for 1 year's wages, but we don't have that. The one thing we do have is the ability to get hold of very cheap information. We don't have to do what they used to have to do, which is go to a university or hire a professor or try and find a book and read it, which was very expensive in terms of time. We can now just ask ChatGPT, or we can just join an online course or read Twitter. So we get cheap information. We don't get cheap property. And if you're not utilizing that cheap information, which is all telling you one thing, Bitcoin, well, then you're destined to stay poor, I guess.
It's also important to make the most of your time. Like, 5-6 years ago, I made a conscious decision to put all of my effort into crypto. And I would literally schedule my day in half-hour blocks when I was going to study, when I was going to read, when I was going to do charts. And I did this for years and built the wealth I have over the past 5 or 6 years. And we've never had information at our fingertips, and to not use it, what are you doing?
It's crazy. And I kind of feel like we're in this interesting period where it's harder than ever to make money, but it's easier than ever to grow money. Like in the 1980s, you could make money. You could open a mom and pop shop and you could sell teacups and you could make money, right? But then how do you grow the money? Well, you'd have to open more mom and pop shops. And then you're stressed because you're only one person. You only have so many hours in the day. You need to sleep. Your manager's stealing from you. There's traffic in between the stores. You don't have time. Like, how would you grow your money back then? You could give it to a bank and hopefully get 5 or 6%, but you couldn't really double it. Whereas now it's harder to make money because you can't open a mom and pop shop because you're competing against Amazon. Yeah. So you can't make money. But if you do manage to get hold of some money, you can grow it exponentially. You buy Bitcoin and you forget. I mean, you could trade, of course. You can leverage trade. You can time the market. You can do all of those things. Yep. But Michael Saylor, he spoke to me when Michael Saylor said, look, I can't time the market. I was like, well, if he can't time it, you know what? Let me just buy and forget. And I know I've been proven wrong. I know a lot of people who make a lot of money trading. But for my own peace of mind. So, yeah, otherwise I can't sleep at night, bro. Otherwise, every time I wake up to go piss, I start checking the price and I just buy and forget. So,
it's a roller coaster. You know, it's I always compare it to playing poker, not in the sense of gambling, but the sense of poker players like who make money. Like, luck doesn't explain why there's so many familiar faces at final tables. And you have an edge on the game. And if you have that edge and you can exploit that edge, rinse, repeat, you know, you have yourself a strategy. And you did just mention Michael Saylor, and, you know, him and, you know, Kaiser and a bunch of Bitcoin maxis for years have been saying, you know, Bitcoin is going to $1 million. And the investment firm Bitwise not too long ago said that they think they're going to see a $1 million Bitcoin by 2029. Do you agree?
I mean, it's very feasible. When I analyze these things, I think it's very easy. Instead of predicting, you know, what's definitely going to happen with Bitcoin, let's predict what's definitely going to happen to other things. Is America losing global hegemony? Is America losing global power and status? I would argue yes. I would argue that Russia and China and India and a lot of these other countries are now starting to ally against America. That's bad for the dollar. I mean, that's pretty obvious, which is going to be bad for the stock market. It's going to be bad for the property pricing and markets across the Western world. And that's why there's so much money flooding into gold. Gold's hitting endless all-time highs. It seems that the people with huge financialized capital know something we don't, and they're trying to move away from the dollar into a safer instrument. I mean, these are all facts now. So before we guess about the Bitcoin price, let's look at the facts. If the dollar is going to continue to go down, if all of the world's capital is going to be looking for a safe haven, if the stock market is not going to perform, if property is not going to perform, it's only going to be gold and digital gold, which is Bitcoin. So I think it's very feasible. I think it's very possible. I think it's a great hedge against the implosion of the Western world. It's always been interesting because I remember every time a big crisis happens, Bitcoin kind of drops. It's weird. You wouldn't expect it to, but it does. Every time something terrible happens, Bitcoin goes down because everyone panics and sells it out into dollars. But I think that these crises we're going to be facing in the coming years are going to be very specific to the dollar and to the Western hegemony. And I don't think that people are going to be looking to rush to dollars. They're actually going to be looking to do the opposite. And as America gets in more trouble, as Europe continues to collapse, they're going to be thinking, I don't want property and I don't want any of these currencies. It's all shit coins. I want Bitcoin. So I think it's very feasible. I think it's very possible. I can't see why it wouldn't. I think the path to 100K was much harder than the path to $1 million.
I completely agree with you on that one. And this kind of ties into my next question. You know, today, crypto is roughly a $4 trillion industry. It's like 3.97 trillion or something like that. For Bitcoin itself to get to 1 million would require a $19.9 trillion market cap. So basically 20 trillion, right? I want to know, in your opinion, what is the catalyst that gets us from 4 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 20? Because, like, you know, ETFs, you know, Wall Street's finally in the game. You know,
and it hasn't really done it. I mean, everyone was going on and on about Wall Street and saying how the ETFs and Wall Street's going to blow it to $1 million a coin. And we see all these huge purchases every day. If you go on Twitter, it looks like they're buying Bitcoin nonstop, thousands of coins, and Sailor's buying it. But the price doesn't go up. And everyone's like, well, why does the price not go to the moon? That's OTC desks, and perhaps there's something else going on behind the scenes. But I would say what's going to really spiral it upwards, what's going to really send it in a tornado to the sky, is the very simple thing that the biggest Ponzi scheme in history has been property. People buy houses not to live in. They buy houses knowing it's going to be worth more later. And for that to happen, you need to wait for the next generation to slave away to buy your house off you for more than you paid. And if you actually look at the property markets, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Florida has more houses for sale than any point in its history. In London, the property prices dropped by 47% since COVID. There's actually already a huge problem with property prices in the West. And what's the reason for that? Well, it's very simple. In the 1980s, if you were 25 and you managed to save up 100,000, you'd go to the bank, you'd go through credit checks, you'd show you had 100,000, you'd get out a mortgage, you'd put that as a deposit, you'd agree to get raped by the bank for the next 20 years, and you'd buy a house for more than the person who sold it to you bought it for. Yeah. But now anyone with 100,000, they don't go to the bank and ask for a mortgage, and they don't go to the bank trying to get hold of a property. They just buy Bitcoin and forget. So property prices are struggling, and they have a problem because young people aren't buying them. I'm not sure if it was America or England recently, they said that more houses were sold to people above 70 than below 30 for the first time in history. Only old people still believe in this.
I believe 100%. Even where I live in Washington State, I talked to a couple of real estate agents. I've been looking to buy a house. Like, honestly, I think renting's easier. You kind of keep your capital. You can grow your capital better renting. But I have talked to real estate agents, and they say, everyone out here, they think their house is worth $2-3 million. But no one's going to pay $2 or $3 million. No one's going to buy it. That's right. I mean, there's a difference between what something's worth and what someone's going to pay for it.
Well, that's the only real value is what people will pay, right?
Yep.
And once you get to a certain level of wealth, like I own my house, because once you have a certain amount of money, then you may as well own a house, sure. But these young people who are just trying to get on the ladder have to make a binary choice. Do they go property or crypto? They're all going crypto.
Yep.
So you're asking me what's going to send the price of Bitcoin to $1 million? Well, I think just simply time. Across the next 5 or 6 years, the young people will be coming into maturity. They'll be looking to build a financial base, and they'll be sitting around saying, am I going to go to a bank and try and explain to them every single penny I made and get tax audited by the IRS and then owe a bank 11% interest on a loan for the next 30 years? Or am I just going to buy Bitcoin, put it in cold storage, and go enjoy my life in Thailand? So for that reason, I think that the youth coming up is going to naturally continue to push Bitcoin to the moon, and I think property is going to have a problem. I think the only places where property is going to survive are places where they actually accept and adopt crypto, and also the places where they manage to bring in so much of the world's wealth, like Dubai, for example. They're attracting so many rich people that they can always, sell property. But Joe Schmo in Minnesota, he's not getting a mortgage. He's getting some ETH and some Bitcoin. That's what he's doing.
100%. And you're speaking of ETH, I did want to ask you this question. Everyone has that story about like their initial big come up in crypto. A lot of my friends from high school, it was Doge or Shiba. For me, it was like Algorand and VeChain. For you, it was PancakeSwap.
Correct.
I want to know if you have your eyes on any altcoins now that give you like the OG PancakeSwap vibes.
I'm glad you knew that about PancakeSwap, because that was my one. I got into PancakeSwap at pennies and it went up to crazy money. I can't even remember exactly how much I made, $30 or $40 million on PancakeSwap. It was incredible.
30 or 40 million?
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
It was pretty wild. Yeah. But and there was times when I had thousands and thousands of Bitcoin, but I bought them at 7,000 and sold them at 30,000 and did dumb shit and bought property and all the crap we just talked about you shouldn't do. Hindsight's a bitch, right? But it's okay. I've still got 93 cars and a bunch of houses and a private jet. I'm doing all right. But I'm doing fine. You know what's funny? It's hard for me to predict which coins are going to be big in the future. I love Hyperliquid. I love Hype. I think Hype's going to do very well. But there's a coin that I've been holding on to forever, and the price has never moved. And it's Chainlink. And I don't know what Chainlink's going to do. I bought Chainlink at $20. I bought 10 million of it forever ago, and now it's like $24. It's been like 6 years or something stupid, and I see all these people posting about Chainlink all the time, and the price never ever moves. They literally integrate it with MasterCard, and the price stays the same. I don't know what I'm doing with this. It's basically a stable coin at this point, but I'm stuck with it.
I'm with you on Chainlink. With the cross-chain interoperability protocol, the CCIP is not just a bridge between, DeFi and DeFi, but a bridge between TradFi and DeFi. And since they're an Oracle, so many crypto projects partner with them out of necessity.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants real information on the blockchain.
So where's the price action? Where's the action?
I think it's coming. I think I could see Chainlink going to $100. If there is, in the case we have a proper bull market like we should, either end of this year or going into 26, I could see a $100 Chainlink. I really could.
Well, I hope so, because I bought that forever ago. But yeah, I mean, crypto, also, and I'll make it very clear to you also, one more thing. Crypto literally saved my life, because
me too.
When I was matrix attacked, when the government came for me because I became the most Googled man in the world and I was speaking too much common sense, and the British government wrote to the Romanians and said, get him off the internet. And the Romanians arrested me and threw me in jail for no reason and said I was a human trafficker without a victim. When they went through all this crap, they took my houses, they took my cars, they took all my banks, but they couldn't take my crypto. They sat me down and tried to take my crypto. They tried to get me to admit to having it or saying where it was like a dummy. Yeah. And of course, that didn't work. So I'm not stupid. So, you know, there's also, it's not just about getting rich. There's also the fact that as empires fall, they become authoritarian and they get desperate. And as empires collapse, they become violent, not just from the other people, not just from the criminals, but also the governments themselves. And it's very easy for them to take a house from you. If you buy a house and think you own it, you don't own it.
You don't.
You'll see that they'll send a piece of paper from some judge you've never met, and now you're at your house. It doesn't matter to them. The system is brutal. Yeah. So this also gives you true sovereignty over your money.
And this perfectly ties into the last question I had for you today. Also, of course, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day for this interview. But my final question for you is, I don't know if you saw the tweet about how I was attacked for, you know, wearing a MAGA hat and, you know, kind of an argument about Charlie Kirk. And, you know, not too long ago, I had a friend who was robbed at gunpoint for his seed phrase. You know, how do crypto folks stay safe in this day and age?
Well, that's it. So there's two things. Firstly, crypto gives you the miracle of geographical freedom. And you have to be very understanding that if the area you're in is becoming more dangerous, you either have to be prepared to fight for that area. And I'm not saying don't do it, or you have to be prepared to move. Those are one of the two options. You have to keep that in mind. But at least you have the option to move. If you have a house in that area, you don't have the option to move. If you have a job in that area, you don't have the option to move. So you have geographical freedom, which is very important. That's why places like Switzerland, Dubai, et cetera, are attracting so much crypto wealth, because they're just safe. They're a safe place to be with crypto. Yeah. The second thing I would do is, I think anybody who has a large amount of crypto, or people know they have crypto, should have multiple wallets, and they should have a wallet with some money in it they're prepared to give up and lose. I wouldn't put a little bit of money in there. I mean, it should be less than your portfolio. It should be enough for a robber to be happy. 24,000, something for a thief to get and leave you alone. He feels like he made some money and you get to escape. And because you might be put in a position where you have to give up something. So that's something to keep in mind. But of course, on top of all of that, it's basic OPSEC and security and trying to keep yourself safe. And as we talked about the Western world collapsing and things becoming more authoritarian, we have to, once again, make predictions. Do we predict America to become more safe or less safe across the next decade? And if the answer is less safe, that's bad for the dollar, which is good for Bitcoin. Yep. And I would argue that a lot of the problems that American society is facing are basically unfixable. And the cancer is going to continue to spread. And things are just going to get worse and worse. So if I'm right, then Bitcoin's for sure going to 1 million and more. Amazing.
Well, Andrew Tate, man, thank you so much for your time. You know, hopefully down the road we could do an in-person interview. Would love to have you on sometime. Man, have a safe rest of your day, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. When I'm in America, let's do it. And if not, I'll see you in Dubai, sir.
All right. Sounds good, brother. Smash your likes, everybody. Get rich or get wrecked. Peace.